The grid. We were planning to have a guest, but thanks to a Windows update, those dreams were shattered and they exploded into a million pieces. So appropriately, what we're going to be talking about now is we're going to be taking your questions, talking to the surgeon, and talking about exploding rockets. So it all starts right now.
Grid is brought to you by Tamron. Check out their 28 to 75 millimeter f2.8 lens. It's for Sony full frame mirrorless. It's awesome. Go to tamron-usa.com.
And ProPhoto, the light shaping company. Check out the ProPhoto B1X, powered all the right places. Go to prophoto.com/US.
And Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
Well, hey, Grid Nation, how's it going? You can see that we have Jason joining us on the set, the digital surgeon, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, AKA the Dark Request. He's representing the dark right now. He's got the Dark Request on. But yeah, so we were going to be joined via Skype by Rami. We had a cool topic that we're going to talk about, and Rami was going to come on the show and talk about it. And yeah, Windows updates did not agree with us. So we had
always go Mac.
Always, don't start that. Don't start that. He didn't say that. Just ignore that. But anyways, it is true. We had a little Windows update snafu. So yeah. So and speaking of, we're going to be giving away a copy of the landscape photography book where Rami was going to come on the show. And Rami's actually on page 50. You can see right there in the digital photography or the landscape photography book. There's Rami on page 50, standing in the water, shooting with Scott. So hoping to have him on the show. But what we were really going to talk about is talking about, and it kind of segues, I guess, where we're going to go with the show now. So we had to kind of flip that, kind of change it a little bit. But really what we were wanting to talk about is what it takes to get the shot. You know, because one of the things that I know, you know Rami, I know Rami. Rami called me up about half a year ago, and he's like, hey, dude, I'm thinking of going off the grid.
Yeah, he's committed.
And I was like, I think that'd be a good idea for you, right? So he was at a point in his career where he's like, hey, look, I'm here in Eastern Canada. Where I want to be is all over the globe, and especially in Western Canada. And me staying here is kind of limiting my photography. Mm-hmm. And basically, Rami packed up, sold what he needed to sell off, and basically went off the grid. He's now living out. He's got a camper with a home base with his truck, and he's just traveling all over. And really, what I would talk to, I mean, you could definitely tell with Rami's photography, since he's made that commitment, that his level of photography has gone way up. You know?
Oh yeah. When I worked with him in Banff, we cut some B-roll to show him walking. He does whatever it takes to get to the shot or location.
Yeah, that's one thing that I definitely picked up from him, right?
Yeah.
And I think you have some B-roll of the stuff you guys shot, right?
Yeah, we were lugging a whole bunch of gear trying to follow him into these remote locations, and we did hike probably, I would guess, it felt like 2 miles.
Yeah.
You know, it probably was.
Well, and those snowshoes, it probably feels like 5, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it was. Like
yeah, I've been there.
Here,
there's Mount Chevron. I've been there.
Yeah,
been on that path.
Banff here, and unbelievable. Like, so Rami was ahead of us, and there's one of our crew guys, and we were trying to follow him, and he had, like, there was kind of a path from someone else previously, but he still was using snowshoes for most of it, and we would have to follow in the steps of his snowshoes.
Yep.
And if you stepped off just a slightly, you would sink down probably 3 feet.
Yep.
It was no joke. And
I always had snowshoes on up there.
And the whole time we were in this location, because Rami, as far as I was understanding, he was right outside of Toronto.
Yep.
And so he was always complaining that the mountains were by Toronto, and he needed to get over to the mountains. And so I give him props, like, for him to follow his dreams.
Yeah, just pack up and move out to where, because like Rami is, he's really, you could tell he has a passion and an obsession with mountains. He loves mountains. He loves shooting mountains. He loves composing mountains. Kind of like I have a passion for shooting rockets. You know, it's very similar. That's why I think we gel a lot in that area, because we're like all in the things that we're into, right? And but that's one of the things that it takes, and I know with Remy, to get the shots. You know, is really to get out there, adventure out there, be committed to it, and kind of take it to that next level.
Well, and like I saw with Erik too, it takes even more effort to set up and plan out these shots, and then also try to teach what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a whole extra step we're adding on.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Kelby One, like I'm like, all right, man, smile.
Well, and that's what you do. So,
You
I mean,
know?
one of the things that if you're a Kelby One member, you've seen a lot of Jason's work. I mean, because that's where you go out on a lot of these shoots, and you're directing the training, basically,
Correct.
right? So, like directing, the trainers and all that stuff. So, I want to ask you a question about that. Like, what's been your favorite shoot that you've been on?
There's two, which would be the Banff and with you.
Oh, really?
I mean, because the Banff was amazing because I never have been in the mountains like that. It was just aesthetically
Oh,
beautiful.
because you're off the grid. You are out there, right?
Yeah, it is like no matter where you look, there's a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And then with the NASA launch, though, I mean, as a kid, I've always loved the space
Yeah.
shot. I wanted to be an astronaut, actually.
Oh.
Like Top Gun was my favorite
Yeah,
movie.
me too.
I was
right.
more of a Gus.
Yeah.
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 But the trying to be an astronaut and then being on at Cape Canaveral was unbelievable, you know.
And
And I think everyone else didn't feel like that because it was my first time.
oh yeah, well it's definitely like that with a lot of photography, right? So when you go out and you start doing it repetitiously, like you can get to where it's more comfortable, but then like you said, you kind of get desensitized to it. But you always want to hold on to a little bit of that excitement,
Right.
and that thrill and all that. I still get that every time. For me, it's boiled down to that initial it going off. There's still that point at which there's like that little kid inside you that
Oh,
goes,
definitely.
wow, this is happening. Now, I mean, it really takes it up a notch for me when I see them land,
Yeah.
the boosters landing.
Which I've never seen that yet.
Yeah, when you see that, that's a little kid inside you that kind of lights up, right? So, but yeah, I mean, that's why I was hoping to have Raymond to really talk about that. But so now really kind of flipping it, we're going to kind of talk about like this experience, because kind of, that was your experience with this. But what's been your favorite location that we went on?
As far as any,
Yeah, any.
I do like Costa Rica. I went with Rick Salmon to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I mean, tropical jungle is amazing.
Yeah.
I flew the drone there quite a bit, which there's no restrictions for flying the drone, mostly in Costa Rica. You
Right.
can pretty much do whatever
Yeah,
you
because
want.
you
there.
have your drone certification.
Correct.
your license.
Here in Florida, yeah, I got my drone license, and I look at the weather, obviously, and
Well, when we go on shoots, you have to contact the airports. You have to do all that,
yeah,
right?
you look up and see if there's any restricted areas that day, and usually it has been the apps now that you can use. You can really pinpoint where you can be legally, and if you're flying under 400, which is pretty high, like for what we do here, like I'm never really flying at more than 100 feet. I mean, I'm trying to get
Right.
a shot of the action of taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a misconception with drone photography, right? People think that you're like really high up in the air, which the reality is for most of your shooting, you're probably really close to the ground, right?
Yeah, we were in downtown Clearwater, and I was probably 40 feet the most,
Yeah.
and I was just hovering over Scott with a model
Yeah.
to get that angle, a different perspective than what we would get on ground level.
And part of that is, correct me if I'm wrong, is because a lot of times with the drone, kind of the same principle we have with a wide angle lens. You're shooting with a wider angle with the drone photography. So the farther you are from your subject, the more it's going to push that subject away or make it
absolutely.
smaller.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not going to want to be as high up in the air. like 100 feet is going to be plenty high, especially at that wide angle.
Right.
Because if not, your foreground element or your subject is going to be so small, it's going to get lost in the frame.
Yeah, and going back to Costa Rica with Rick, we experimented a few times with this epic intro on the beach, and I had the drone low and then went up over him and up, and it was really cool when I was looking at it on my phone.
Yeah.
But then when we got back at editing it, we were like, it's too far out. You can't see what's going on.
And that's something, if obviously, we've both been on Kelby One Productions. If you ever watched any of our classes and you have any questions about it, this would be a great episode to ask. Like, hey, when you guys were doing this, or when you were shooting that, or how about this class? I'm sure you could give some insight into a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you guys contacting us. I think you got into a little bit of, didn't the cops in Amsterdam?
With Frank Dorhoff, yeah.
Didn't you have a little run-in with the cops?
Yeah, we did. So with Frank, he had this young model, and she was of age. She was 18 or 19 years old, but she was definitely young looking. And we were doing, he was setting up in a tunnel, a bicycle tunnel. And if you've seen Frank's work, he has like really cool, like urban backgrounds. And this is exactly what he was trying to do. And we're shooting through the tunnel, and while we're shooting, it's like me, Juan, Frank, and one of his assistants. So 4 older men with this young female in a trench coat.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, so she had this red trench coat on, and someone drove by one of the bicycles, and they thought we were doing something that we shouldn't have been with
doing,
her.
Yeah.
And so they sent in these 2 guys here, and they loved talking to us.
But didn't they end up kind of becoming kind of buddy with you?
Yeah, they were
kind of like, yeah.
If you see the guy on the left, I wish I knew his name, but he's posing right there.
Yeah.
Look at his face. He liked the attention, and they wanted to talk to the model too. So we were like, all right, we'll just let everybody talk it out. And and it's funny because they went up to Juan and I was like, English.
Yeah, no.
And then he's looking around, and then he went to Frank, and then Frank totally took over. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, that really helped.
Yeah,
right?
so Frank explained exactly what we were doing, and we weren't causing any trouble.
Which is something I would tell any photographer that is traveling in a country where you don't know the primary language. It's always nice to have a friend there that speaks the language, or team up with somebody that is local when you go, because that language barrier can become tricky, especially in certain countries.
Well, it helped with Juan in Costa Rica because he knows Spanish.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that helped. And we had Rick we had a guide too in Costa Rica, which also, even Juan knowing Spanish, you still want someone from the area that knows people.
Yes, knows people, knows how to navigate.
Yeah,
that's when we've been shooting years ago. For you, we're here doing your job that you're doing now. I remember we were out on a location shoot in Paris, France, and we had Serge Romelli was our local. Basically, he helped do the production on the local side.
Yep.
So I did the production back here. He did the production over there, and then when we got there, he was the guy who could, while something was going on, talk to the cops or talk to whoever came over, because we had that happen a couple times while we were getting stuff set up, so that we wasn't being disruptive to the process. Because it is, once you get into that language barrier thing, it gets really hard.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Especially when you're, like, whenever you have 2 guys with cameras and a model, the attention's on you. Everybody's looking, no matter where you are.
And attention and the tension.
Yeah.
there's a little like tense moment. But hey, we're gonna take a break here in a second. But when we come back, that's what we really want to talk about today. I want to talk to Jason about the experience of us going over and shooting a rocket launch.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What that was about, what it took to get the shots, kind of from your perspective, because I think you've got some great insights into it. We're going to be doing some giveaways at the end of the show. We've got, like I said, the landscape photography book that we were going to give away, hoping Remy was going to be on. And we have the Platy Pod Ultra, which is another awesome device that we use all the time. And their Kickstarter's still going on for their Platy Ball. It's got a few more days left. If you guys want to get into it, it's platyball.com. So if you go to platyball.com, right there. Few
it's
more
going up
days.
right
It's
now.
like we got 18 days left. So, yeah, definitely check it out. So when we get back, Jason, I think you've got some footage from what
we got
did.
some really awesome
Like
teaser
behind the
footage of our
scenes,
class, and you guys are
yeah.
going to love it. I mean, the one shot in particular, Eric got the actual rocket launch from the perspective of the picture that he took.
Yeah, from the camera's angle.
And
yeah.
that was unbelievable. So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
coming up.
All right, so we'll be back in just a few minutes talking everything to do with anything to do with the classes.
Is the tripod dead? Sure, a tripod works for basic shots, but who wants to be basic? You don't need basic, you need blockbuster. And that's a job for a platypod. The platypod is your go-anywhere, do-anything flat tripod base. Its compact design helps you discover unique angles that you could never reach with a typical tripod. So, whether you're bringing up baby, driving Miss Daisy, or with your beasts of the southern wild, you can capture big budget footage and stills for a fraction of the time and money. So go ahead, shoot the next Rocky or Birdman. Or on the waterfront, the platypod is equipped to grip uneven surfaces and hang from just about anything. When tripods go low, the platypod goes lower. Its flat base reaches the lowest possible angle, resulting in truly inventive shots that can't be replicated with traditional equipment. And if you feel like adding a dramatic overhead angle, the platypod has you covered. Just strap it or screw it in, and you're ready to go within minutes. The platypod is constructed from aircraft-grade aluminum and titanium. Yeah, the stuff Air Force One is made of. So it's durable enough to travel with you from Chinatown to Casablanca and everywhere in between. If you only take the tripod, the story ends. You wake up the next morning with nothing but basic footage. Or you could take the platypod to a museum, or on an elevator, or strap it to a tree, or hanging on a bench at church, or put it on the ground and get incredible blockbuster footage. Who are we kidding? You should totally take the platypod. The tripod is not dead, but it needs a sidekick. The platypod.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
Well, all right, we're back, and we're talking everything to do with the classes here. We were talking about a specific class that we just filmed. We got Jason, the digital surgeon, joining us.
Yep.
Talking about that. If you got any questions for Jason, questions about the classes, anything, I think one of the things we were talking about is drone apps that you use.
Yeah.
A question. So what was the drone apps that you use to like monitor that
Yeah, so
stuff?
there's a couple apps. There's Air Map, and then I got it right here. Air Map, and then Before You Fly.
Okay.
And then you check the apps, and then they'll give you, like, you can put in your GPS
Yep.
or your location, which your phone gives you, and then it'll tell you like any restrictions or weather or anything like that.
Cool.
So it kind of makes it a lot easier, like just like your photo pills. You know, like
Yeah.
everything has gotten so much easier. Like you don't have to
use the technology to your
Yeah.
advantage.
Yep.
Yep. There you go. Well, you know, Scott isn't here, so Scott is on a secret mission right now. It happens to be that WPPI is this week, so you could probably figure out what that secret mission is.
Yes.
So, but anyways, we got people, speaking of secret missions, we got people joining all over the world. We got Daniel joining from good old Switzerland.
Patricia.
Zurich. Patricia's joining from Florida. Let's see, we got Shauna saying hi from New York.
Jay Grimman,
Yep.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Then we got Macarena joining from Northern Virginia. Kathy from in New Zealand.
Peter Engel from Stockholm.
And then we got Mr. Dave Williams
Dave.
saying good evening. So he's busy unpacking. So, yeah, we got Lenworth saying hello. We got Cheeky Nando saying hello.
Yep, Cheeky.
Michael saying hello. And Cheeky saying hello again.
Yeah,
So there we go.
I enjoyed working with Cheeky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was fun.
Yeah, Cheeky. Well, and that was what were we?
That was
it's
for the
a
Milky Way
Milky
class.
Way class. Yeah, Cheeky was out there with us. So very cool. Which that was another cool class to go on. That was definitely a cool one to do.
Oh, where did Sandeep wants to know where I got my shirt? It's Volcom, so you can get it on volcom.com.
Yeah, there you go. And then Sandeep's asking also, have you used an iPhone to shoot stars? I have. Have you?
Not with good results. I still have. It's funny. I have an iPhone 7
Yeah.
or iPhone
So
6 Plus. I still.
I
have
will
iPhone
say
6
that
Plus.
I've had a hard time shooting stars until the new iPhone. The new 11 allows that night mode.
Okay.
You can get some really cool stars. I actually have one that I shot just a few weeks ago where it was at twilight where I was able to get a palm tree, the blue hour, and some stars in the shot all together,
Awesome.
which was pretty cool for a little phone. And then I have started to get into trying to push it with like the Milky Way. The results are still kind of in between.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect. But what's cool about it is because of computational photography, I think that we're going to get to the point where it won't be a problem.
Yeah, I've been totally impressed by the camera of the new phone.
Yeah.
And the only reason I don't got one, besides the money, of course, is like I still use mine for the DJI Pocket and the drone. So I'm all set up kind of with what I got and nothing's broken.
So it's like, why mess with it?
And I use my Sony. I got A7R2 that I use for the shots that we were talking about.
Yep.
So I haven't really used my iPhone to the extent of what you can do with the new iPhone yet, personally.
Cool. And another question is, how much is a drone license?
It's $150.
All right. And that's a commercial one, right?
Correct.
And now isn't there a hobbyist version?
Yeah, you don't have to spend the $150 if you aren't doing it commercially. So you do have to register your drone, which is $5. And we just re-registered the Kelby One drone because they changed that where you have to display the registration on the outside of the drone.
Yeah.
So we're all up to par on that. But yeah, if you're a hobbyist, don't worry about it. But if you want to do it commercially, I highly recommend it because you don't want to be in that situation where you have to explain it. And it is intense, though. I got to say that. Like, it took me, it's basically a ground school, which is unbelievable. We were talking about this earlier, for a private pilot. So it's not an easy test.
Yeah, it's like you're taking a test like you would be flying a small craft.
Yeah, so you got to read the charts and it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot learning. It took me about 3 weeks to get up to speed and take the test, and I think I got a 95.
There you go. So Steve's asking, do you use a star tracker for any Milky Way shots, Eric? I do. I found myself using star trackers less and less and less anymore, just because of getting so deep into stacking anymore and using like dark frames and bias frames and stuff like that. However, if I'm really going to get in close and wanting to do like nebulas and just star fields and stuff, absolutely, I use a star tracker. But I've started using less and less of it for my wide stuff. However, with that said, a star tracker is a great thing to have because it will help you not have to do as much post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and
the post can be very intensive.
I watched Erik do the star tracker, and it is cool. And I personally have not done one yet, but it's awesome the results you can get if you do it properly.
Yep. So Daniel has a question. Jason, how is flying with all this camera gear, especially the batteries?
It's not fun. Like, I mean, it's hit or
especially
miss.
the lithium ions anymore.
It's
You've
hit or
got to take
miss.
them with you,
Yeah,
right? You know.
It's hit or miss. We had honestly, the biggest problems we ever had was Canada. I mean,
Yeah.
we went to Amsterdam, and there was a little bit of questioning there, but Canada really went through all our bags and took out everything and was checking everything.
I had the
So-
same experience in Canada in a different trip, but I actually got into 3 different interrogations because of my equipment.
Yeah.
And I was just going up actually just for myself. It was not commercial or anything like that. And I got 3 separate interrogations about my equipment. So yeah, some reason Canada does not like photographers
Yeah.
coming in with gear.
If you're flying here in the States and you're American, it's not that
nothing.
big of a deal.
Yep, cool. All right, so let's kind of get to the story at hand. So we were going to talk with Rami about, kind of the experience of getting a shot. So kind of take us through, so we went on this, so what we did is we went on this class to film basically the documenting of a rocket launch, right?
Correct.
So showing, different aspects of it. The main thing in the class that we really focused on for this class is showing people how they can shoot streak shots, because anybody can shoot a streak shot.
Yep.
In fact, that's one of the misconceptions of it is, as you saw in the class, we actually got farther and farther and farther away from the rocket in order to get the perfect shot. So we actually ended up, I think, 17 miles from the rocket launch at the end, because we started out scouting.
So scouting is absolutely, as far as what I learned from Erik, was part of getting the streak shot. I mean, there's a lot of legwork you got to do to get in the right location if you want something that is going to really take off on Instagram.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then the telephoto shots and the nebula shots that I've been doing, anybody can shoot those. Anybody can shoot telephoto daytime shots. The only real thing that really is that restrictive, which we go into the class, is when you're talking about those pad shots.
Right.
But we still went into that because we wanted to show people
and
this is how you go about doing it.
And we got the first video, which is us actually getting on the launch site 39, Launch Complex 39.
Yeah, we're at
on NASA
39, yeah.
And that one, you'll see right here. There's the
that's the 39A press center.
Yep.
So that's where the countdown clock is, where you saw the countdown.
And there's Erik, and this is the rollout, and he did this with stills.
Yep, that's stills. Just every 10 seconds, you're just taking a shot, and that's what happens with that rocket is it kind of rolls out to the pad. So we actually we had a closer spot, but we actually elected not to go there because we wanted to show people more stuff.
This is the buses, and so they take us to the actual ULA launch pad. So look at this gear. It blew me away as how much gear that was on these buses. And these guys have custom boxes. This is no joke. These people are taking this very seriously.
Well, these are my friends that do this. I mean, we're just documenting for different agencies, different services, different wire services, different outlets, news
right
outlets.
there. Look at all the.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that is the gear just for one launch, right? So.
Yeah, and after this one, let's pause this because I want to just talk about that previous shot on the rollout.
Right.
So, like Erik was saying, so we were going to go access to the actual rollout, which we're like a mile
away. So we remained 3 miles away.
Yeah, and we remained on the press center because we were shooting the class, and it worked out amazing because no one was around.
Yeah.
So we did all the intros and outros to the class on the press at the press site with amazing background. The clock. We switched it around with the building and the clock, and so yeah, I'm excited for this class.
Yeah. Oh, and I could definitely tell it was something. That's why it's definitely something where once you see it, I think. So my question to you with that stuff is, what really shocked you the most going into this? Reflecting back on it, what kind of shocked you the most?
I just after everything's said and done, I didn't realize how long and big of a process it is. I mean, by the time you get into the Kennedy Space Center, go through security, get out to the press site, and then, that bus shot with all those bags, those are getting searched by dogs. And so it was a lot. There was a lot to it.
And that's just to get to that point.
Right.
And then, like I think you said, you turned to me and you went, we were pulling out and you're like, does it feel weird that like all your equipment's just like sitting on a pad out in the weather right now, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so now we'll go to clip 3, and that was, this is showing perspective of Erik setting up, and I was, again, this was another thing, like, look at that. Like, we're really close to the rocket.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
you're
one
really
of Erik's
close.
setups right there.
Yeah.
Hand warmer.
Yeah,
dew.
in the bag for the weather.
Oh, and this is, I did a cameo. That's me.
Yeah, there's
walking
Jason.
Around with the pocket. So this.
And there's the other photographers looking at you like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the DJI Pocket is amazing for the stuff that we're doing. And this is Erik, a different perspective of him looking and setting up a shot. So there's a lot. So Erik, by far, well, there was one other guy, but Erik is pushing the limits of what one human can possibly do on this type of shoot. Because he set up, between the video cameras, you set up 7 cameras.
6 cameras on this
6 cameras.
one. Well, and that's 4 cameras, but the 2 video cameras were only for you.
Right.
So I kind of went a little bit farther because I wanted to get stuff for you too.
I mean, look at these. Look at the perspective on this. It blew me away. So you can.
And that's the video camera we set up behind the camera shooting, my camera shooting.
Right. This, yep.
Yeah, so.
And there's the buses way over there. So if you can see how large this field is here, I don't know if it really
translates.
Computes, but it was like a half a football field. So when we get there, I'm going to record Erik setting up his camera. And in my head, I was like, okay, there's going to be this little area, and it's like camera, and everyone else has to kind of huddle around this area and set up the best shot they can. And then when I get there, it's a half a football field. So Erik's like over here, and then I'm recording him, and he's like, all right, go and set up another one. He starts going over here, and I'm like, whoa. And to the point where I couldn't even keep up with him. I literally couldn't keep up. So I just was like, all right, I got enough of Erik walking.
And that was the thing is, so one of the things about this, and this is very typical when you deal with events, especially even sporting events that I've been to and stuff like that, that sometimes the stories and the process is totally changing. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we had is we had a 2-hour window for setup. That was then cut in half, remember?
Correct, because it was a foreign.
Yeah, so it ended up going from a 2-hour window to set up to a 1-hour window to set up. And then we knew, because that 1-hour window had been crept into, that we only really had about 43 minutes. Yeah. So by the time we got out of the bus,
which is not enough time for anything.
Set up all that stuff, we had 43 minutes. And I remember I turned to you and said, hey, we were supposed to have 2 hours. We only got 43 minutes. It's going to go fast. And I remember you at the end going, what just happened? Where did
I was
that
blown
43
away
minutes go?
Of course, as the digital surgeon, I'm going to try to get a picture myself.
Yep.
Since I'm there, because it's so, and it was so fast. Like I barely got off a couple shots that are even usable.
No, you did. And to the point of Jason actually got a little scolding from the NASA media representative.
Yeah. There's this ditch. There's this ditch. Well, the last shot you saw, if you want to roll clip 3 again, that last shot you saw, there's a hit. So this is the far left. If you're looking in the rocket, the far left of the launch site. Yeah. And then there might be, if you can see, it'll come up, but there's this section where there's this trench where all the water runs off after the rocket is launched. Yep. And so this trench obviously had water in it. Yeah, it did. I'm like all dressed up nice. And I was like,
is he dressed up?
I didn't want to get my shoes dirty, so I started walking away from the bus to cross the moat, and the lady snapped at me, and she's like, the bus is the other way, sir. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I don't
he's walking away from it.
I don't want to get my shoes dirty.
And mind you, he's seen me going through this ditch about 4 times
Erik
already.
Doesn't care. So
I'm just going, because I'm like, I just got to get it set up. I just got to get it done. So I'm going through the ditch, back out the ditch, through the ditch.
Yeah, it's funny.
So anyways, but actually, here's a shot that is interesting, because Jason got this shot. And it's on his Instagram. And actually, this is one of those shots that I'm like, I'm gonna have to possibly steal this in the future because this is a really cool shot. What that is those are actually the lightning rods, the cables coming from the lightning rods to ground those poles. Those poles up there are set up there to deflect lightning because that's one of the things that we have a lot of around Florida, and it actually sends the lightning into the ground. And look how the rocket is kind of framed up right in between. Now imagine that rocket lifting off and then that rocket being on the top third of that image. That could be a really cool shot. It's a really cool shot as is, but that could be a really cool shot.
And this was with my Sony, and I have a 15 millimeter.
Yep.
So the distortion was pretty severe with everything being straight. Mm-hmm. So I spent some time in Photoshop making everything.
But that's the beauty of being able to use perspective corrections and stuff like that.
Yeah, I use perspective correction for this particular shot. But yeah, I thought, like, what else out there is different, and that was a different shot.
Yeah,
that's
very
what you
cool.
always do, like, try to find something that's a little different than everybody else.
Yeah, very cool shot. I love that shot. Never seen that shot before in my life.
Thanks.
So, very cool. But yeah, so we have to take a break. When we come back, I just want to, I got a bunch of questions for Jason. Then later on in the show, I want to, if we got time, want to talk to something about gear with you.
Okay.
And then, but if you guys have any questions, I see some coming in, just ask us at the break. When we come back, we'll rattle through a few questions. So see you guys in just a few minutes.
Every serious photographer needs an online portfolio. It's kind of like, it's the thing, right? You don't have to have a printed one anymore. It's nice. But what's really critical is that you at least have an online portfolio. Everybody needs one. Problem is they're expensive. You got to pay for them, you got to sign up for them, and now you're paying another monthly fee. What if I told you you don't have to do that because it's already included in your Adobe Creative Cloud subscription? That's right. If you've got the Lightroom and Photography plan or the full Creative Cloud, you're already paying for a beautiful online website. Choose a theme. You got a bunch of cool themes. In fact, take a look. You go to myportfolio.com and click on examples. They show you a bunch of other photographers and designers' websites that are already there. And if you see one that you like, it'll even tell you what theme to start with. So you choose your theme, you upload your images, you add your text, you hit publish, and it's live. You're already paying for it, and I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to do it. You can upload your images from your computer. You can go straight from Lightroom. You can add video. You can do so much. You're going to be blown away at what you can do, and you're going to be thrilled to know it doesn't cost you a penny more than you're already paying. So it's included in your Creative Cloud subscription. I'm going to show you how to unlock this thing. You can have it up and running tonight. So go catch my brand new class on creating your online portfolio using Adobe Portfolio. It's exclusively at Kelby One.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
All right, we're back, and we're talking Kelby One classes here with the digital surgeon. So we were out on a shoot, shooting some rockets, and actually we got some questions coming in. So Steven's asking a question to you, Jason. He's saying, what is the most amazing thing that you learned while shooting this class?
Which is funny, because I'm a video guy, which was the trigger on the video camera that Erik showed me, which he set up with the time of the launch, and then it actually has a little finger and it goes down and presses the record on the camera. So I don't know if that's really amazing. It's amazing to me because I've never seen it before. I'm like, oh, this is how I could do it. Because
you start thinking outside the box then, right?
you get like if you're stills, you can set up a whole bunch of different ways. Like you have the $200,
and we got the sound trigger. We got timer triggers.
So, but in video it's a little different. But to see the pneumatic, like little finger go burp.
Yeah, I'm using a thing. It's called a SwitchBot, and it's just basically it's a device that has a little like I said, it's just a robotic arm. It's just a piece of plastic that's coming down to push a button.
Super simple.
And that's all it's doing. Is you got to think that's when what's cool about this is it's got me to where I've had to use a lot of the information that I've built up over the years to kind of come together to solve these problems that we're faced. Oh, and one of the problems is that you're just not near your camera.
Yeah, and I don't think like people really register because we haven't really talked about, but the length of time it takes. By the time, so you saw that clip where we set up to the rocket launch, that was hours later.
Yeah, hours, yeah.
So, I mean, that's whole part of the process is trying to, figure out how you're going to power your camera for that long, those periods of time. And
that's why you saw some solar panels out there.
Yeah, and if it's scrubbed, because that's the thing, like if it's scrubbed, then that's even that much longer.
Yeah.
And the way, I don't want this to be negative, but it was very... It's not the easiest to be accessing in the NASA site, it is what it is. So you can't just be like, oh, I forgot the setting and go. Can I go back and change that?
There's no going back.
like when that's why we were joking about getting in trouble. Like they're very strict, and they want everything on time, which is NASA.
I get it. What do you expect? I get it. Yeah.
So, but to have the time frame and to trigger and the exposure and all that is amazing.
Yep.
And I see like Erik, how he did it, and the other guys out there, like those guys are studying this and they've had failures. Like I talked to a guy that night and he totally the camera got bumped, and so it was off.
Yeah, it's out of the frame.
So there's lots of failures in this type of business. But once you get the shot, like on the bus home when people got their shots, you should smile ear to ear.
Yeah,
they were all like, "Oh, look at my shot," and they're like, and so that was so funny too. Like on the bus, like people like the cameras are basically next to each other, so it's the same shot, almost literally the same shot. They're like, look at mine. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I'm traveling a lot so much, trying to get different shots than other people, trying to set up in places that other people aren't setting up, and then trying to also get stuff that other people aren't doing. And that's one of the things that I've been working on with a lot of this stuff at night launches, trying to get that ignition moment.
Oh yeah,
where the ignition shot, kind of like
and this is
these,
the build-up.
These where you're getting like a shot like that, where that's the rocket just igniting. It's a hard shot to get because you've got to think outside the box as far as settings, and I think that's what trips people up. Or like a shot like this, where that's the ignition, where the rocket's just going off, you're just starting to see the flames come out, or like this. This is actually, you can see there, that is the water and kind of the being pushed out. That's the flame and the water being pushed out just at that ignition.
Yep.
So, stuff like that, or doing like stuff like these shots where you're getting the rocket up in the atmosphere, where it's kind of that nebulous object up in the sky.
Which not a lot of people are doing these type of shots.
So, I mean, just kind of like trying to push outside those boundaries with it. Or, this is another one where, trying to, add some motion to the shots and stuff like that.
Photoverse.
Yep. So, but yeah, so that's where, just trying to do some different things. But that's where I think what's cool is, again, building off, there's so many different uses for this, especially when you're in places where you're thinking, well, how could I be, one of the things that I've really learned in this process is, how can I shoot an event and be here and be here and shoot that same event? I've got to the point where I'm understanding very well how to trigger multiple devices in different spots, how to control devices in multiple spots, like you're talking about even with the remotes and stuff like that, to where it really has come in very handy in other parts of my shooting.
Oh, definitely.
So.
Well, yeah, let's do this. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is a big build-up. This is what I think everybody's been waiting for. This,
Well, at least you
is
were
actually-
waiting
I'm waiting for it because I was
You were waiting
showing
for this.
Juan and Mike earlier today, and Christina, like the actual launch. Eric had a video camera because usually he just does the still cameras. You don't do a lot of video cameras for the most part, but he got the video camera perspective of his camera, and this is clip 4, and we got a look at
Yeah,
this.
so that's the launch there, and there's my camera to the left there. That's the one that was getting that shot you just saw of the ignition.
Look at that.
There's those.
Okay, and
flames
this
come
is so. This is where we are. We're like 6 miles south.
well, we're 16 miles.
16. Okay, I'm
It's
way off.
16 miles away from
16
the
miles
launch.
south, and I'm behind. So that's Eric right in the middle there. So he has 1, 2, 3, right? Cameras you had?
I had one shooting the streak, and then I had one doing the telephotos. Yes.
And then this is I was zoomed in with a 400 millimeter with a 1.2 extender, and it is what it is. I mean, it's just the fireball, but I mean,
But it's still really cool.
yeah. And then the shot we've been all waiting for. This is it. That's the
Yeah.
streak shot.
So, and that's the shot. Again, you can see actually down the beach, there's tons of people down there kind of ghosted from them moving around in the long exposure. But yeah, that's a shot from very far from the launch pad. You had a full moon that night, so we were balancing the full moon in with the rocket streak. We were doing all that beforehand, testing stuff out. And then we actually hiked the tripod up so we could get the water, the beach, the sand, basically all that composed in with the rocket streaking over top
And you
of
were
it.
worried about the moon a little bit.
I was worried about the moon because the moon was a problem. And in fact, that shot is a shot where I kept the moon in it. There's another shot that I have that I kept the moon out of
Okay.
it. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, but these are the kind of things that we all plan for. And
Yeah,
that's
and-
where
and-
Photopills was the lifeline for the moon. And the other app that we were using that was the lifeline for the streak was Flight Club.
Right. Flight Club. This is the first time I saw it. It is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool app.
Like
I
it's
mean,
it's basically like a 3D perspective of, and you can tell it what camera, and you can say, okay, I'm going to be here with this camera with this lens, and it will show you like all augmented reality.
yeah, here it is right here. I could just show you real quick. It's just a website that you go to. It's flightclub.io, and then you can actually set your camera equipment. I'm setting my lens. I was using 15 millimeter. I'm going to set a location. This is actually going to be a location of a rocket launch that's coming up that I'm testing trajectories for.
Like this is so cool.
And then you just type in the mission. So I'm actually going to be doing in a few days this mission right here. And I can actually see, based on the location I'm going to be at, what the rocket is going to look like from a point on the Earth.
where you need your camera pointed.
Yeah,
So
you can actually
really
see all the data for where your camera needs to be pointed, how you need to frame it up, stuff like that.
So this alone, like that blew me away because I like in my head too, like all this stuff, like I've never done this before. So I'm just watching Erik and trying to like see how this is all done. And this was really surprising of how advanced this software is.
Well, and this is something we didn't have when I started years ago. This is something that's probably the last year.
Okay.
So if you're getting into this, I love it because now you've taken a leap.
Yes.
Like way ahead. We used to have to like study the press kit, find out trajectories, see stuff. We used to have to shoot with wider lenses than we really thought we needed to, just so we had that extra millimeter or two. Now I can plan to almost I'm planning a shot now for this next one where it's going to be 50 millimeters. So it's got to be very precise in the sky. But given this information, I can be very precise.
Yeah.
So very cool
And
stuff.
that's where, too, like, now, you can't stress it enough is like how much prep this takes. Like, so you have to get out there, get all your gear out to the site, and then we went location scouting for the street shot.
Yeah, and I think it's really where you get down to it. I mean, probably on your perspective, like I'm doing 5 different shots on one night, right?
Right.
So while that rocket was lifting off, I had 4 other cameras and a video camera triggering, plus I was working a telephoto camera.
Yep.
Most people start out just trying to do that streak shot.
Yes.
Because the streak shot is kind of like, that's the like the holy grail time lapse shot. You know, it is for rocket photography. That's kind of the holy grail shot. So when you look at it, that is actually the shot that does take planning, but it's definitely something that it's not as stressful of a plan. Because when you think about it, like that's one of the questions Nina just had was, how long was the speed setting for the arc shot? So that shot that we saw here, so let me go back to it. So this, if you look at it, right up here you can see it was 154 seconds. So that was a bulb mode, 154 seconds at f11 at ISO 100. So if you look at that, that is the shutter is open for 154 seconds. How do we know to keep it open for 154 seconds? It was that flight club.
Correct.
It told me exactly where I needed the arc to go and all that stuff with the frame, and we knew when to stop it, when to start it. And then we actually did some test shots. So if I go actually to the streak, you can see here was actually a shot that we took right before launch, and you can see this was f11, 161 seconds because I didn't stop it right on time. But we knew that the moon would illuminate the scene that much.
Yes.
And then that way we knew when the streak would go off. I also knew at that distance at f11 at ISO 100, the streak would look like a big streak going across the sky, and the scene would be lit up properly at that setting. So it's all a game of balance at that point.
And this class, you guys have to watch it because, like Erik goes into it, details about each little thing. Because we went around, and the first site probably would have been a good shot too. It was much closer, but we wouldn't have got, as far as my understanding, we wouldn't have got as much as the streak. Correct.
We would have got the streak before it arched back down.
Right,
like
and that's
that.
so we had to go
and
further
I
out.
really didn't want that. I wanted to go farther out because, again, for the composition of it. Plus, the moon would have been at a different angle.
Yep.
So we had a couple things working against us at that spot, and then we went back to the room, did some math, did all that, and said, "Hey, this spot will work." And I only knew about that spot because I had scouted it a year before. So a year before I was down there, we were just on the beach having a swim day.
Experience definitely makes a difference. Like there were some newer guys in the bus that I was talking to, and you see the difference absolutely. Like because you got to experiment and get it just right, and then you start understanding. There was a lot of understanding, I think, especially trying to follow Erik with all the video gear.
Yep.
I mean, it was a good amount of work.
Definitely. We have to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to answer your questions. If you got any questions, just ask them, and we'll answer that at this next break. Then we're going to do some giveaways, and I wanted to ask a couple of gear questions. So.
All right.
Cool.
Hi there, Kelby One members. Corey Barker here with Master Effects Training, and now, this time around, we are going to be talking about 3D compositing. Now, we've talked about 3D, we've talked about compositing. Now we're going to talk about 3D compositing. And what we're going to be doing is creating custom 3D scenes from a variety of 2D sources. Now, one of the key factors here is that we're going to be using the principles of photography. We're going to be building a composite, we're going to be using depth of field. We're going to be using lighting effects, backlighting effects. These are all things that you would construct when you're doing a photo shoot. We're going to do it all inside of Photoshop. I hope you'll join me in checking out these newest courses on KelbyOne.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark Heaps, and I'm excited to share with you my course on KelbyOne.com, A Guide to Commanding Color. In this course, we're going to actually look at the basic principles of color design and theory, the science of light and how it impacts our workflow in Photoshop and Lightroom, and also how to add that cinematic mood and design to our images with color grading. So if you want to learn how to command color, make sure you check out my course on KelbyOne.com.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platy, the world's most compact tripod base.
Make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Grid by subscribing to Apple's podcast app or iTunes. It's free, and we even have a special audio-only version too. So sign up today.
We're back, and we got a bunch of questions. We're going to try to get through a few of them, and then we're going to have some giveaways, and then maybe talk some gear. So first, the other thing is Scott has a book signing. So if you're at WPPI tomorrow, you want to check out, Scott has a book signing over at the Rocky Nook booth. It's at booth 459 at 12 p.m. tomorrow. So check that out. So Jessica's asking a question of, how do you protect your gear from being stolen? Or is that not an issue with the rocket launch area? Exactly. Answered the own question. It really isn't an issue. I mean, you're on a secure base. They know who is entering, who is exiting, who takes stuff off. Before we actually started, we had to register our gear with NASA. We had to tell them how many cameras, what models. Everything has to be labeled as well. So, yeah, nothing.
Yeah, and I'm
really,
sure there is people watching us that we couldn't see, too.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's like I said, they're, like you were saying, they're sniffing, they're monitoring, they're watching. Everything is secure. It's very secure when you're out there, so no problems there. Kathy's asking, how do you choose which cameras, lenses that you're using for the shoot? The big thing with the cameras and the lenses are just what shots you're going after. I would say the pad cameras tend to be older cameras that are just weather sealed. So they're my older weather sealed cameras. Everyone's used. Everyone got at a discount or like something where it was like something's wrong with it. Somebody's selling it on eBay and they're going, like I had one that the autofocus motor isn't working on it. It's like, well, I don't need the autofocus motor. I'm going to do manual focus on a pad. It's going to sit there. Don't need it. I'll buy it. $250. No problem. You know, so a lot of that, when it comes to the streak shots and the distance shots, that's where maybe a little bit fancier. Streak shots, I always want a full frame because I want to be able to get a wider angle a lot of times. So that's a full frame. And then the telephoto lens ones, just matters. During the day, doesn't really matter. I will shoot with about anything. It's just speed. During the night, if I'm going after those nebulas, like those shots, just a high ISO camera, something that will handle high ISO. How do you trigger the shots? Trigger, I use MIOPS triggers. It's MIOPS, MIOPS. So if you go to MIOPS.com, it's just a sound trigger. Well, it actually isn't just a sound trigger. It does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people were using those particular triggers.
Yeah, I mean,
noticed.
it's a very popular one for this. But you can do time lapses with it, storm lapses. You can trigger on lightning. You can trigger on sound. You can trigger on so many different modes. You can even trigger based on stuff linked to your camera. It's way overkill for what we do, but we need that sound trigger, so we have to use something like that. You can make your own, but MIOPS, way to go. What tripods are you using? For the pad, I'm using anything that, again, cheap, beat up, like actually the one you saw in the video was one that somebody got rid of because it had broken, and I super glued it back together.
Yep.
And that's really all it was. It's just it's just something where it's holding my cameras. I don't really care about it as much as I just need something utilitarian that will hold my camera. When it comes to the distance, those we wanted more secure, like the streak shots. You definitely want a secure camera because you don't want it to be shaking. Your camera's going to be open for, in that case, 154 seconds.
Yep.
And the telephoto, I do have a gimbal head. It's actually just the one I got off on Amazon. It's not even a really fancy one. I think it was $50, but that gimbal head really helps with the telephoto. Judy's asking on the streak shot here, is it one shot or is it a composite? That shot's one shot. That was open the camera, let it go for 154 seconds, close the camera. That's it. That's the shot. No compositing.
Definitely want to tweak it in Lightroom.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to tweak everything, you know. And then, so Joseph B. is asking, have you ever lost a camera doing this? I have never lost a camera via theft, fire, rain, water. I think that's the biggest thing, biggest misconception. Another question that we had was, how do you support your cameras so they don't fall over or blow over or get knocked over? I have never had a rocket knock over a camera or destroy a camera at all, and I've had
you're
very close.
really. I mean, it looks close, but there's still a distance there. So
well, in fact, all the shots you saw from this launch, I did not stake a single camera,
right?
Which is a misconception. Everybody thinks that you got to stake your cameras because the rocket's going to blow it over. Rocket won't blow it over. The reason I stake my cameras is I look at the weather, and we have problems in Florida with thunderstorms, and when we get those thunderstorms come through, barometric pressure drops, we get these wind gusts of like 40, 50 miles an hour. That's the time when people's cameras blow over. So if I know, like for example, for this launch, I knew looking at the weather, there was no risk. So I was more interested in speed of setup, where I wanted to set them up, move on, set them up, move on. There, I didn't stake any of my cameras.
Yeah, and he did have to put the plastic too, because there is an acid.
Yeah. So the solid rocket boosters throw off a chemical.
So there is a chemical that is on your cameras at the end. So that's where, you want to protect your camera from that, and you want to wipe down everything after you're done.
Yep.
And we got a last clip to show you like the pickup at night. I mean, it's real fast, but just to show, like, this is like the launch was at 11 p.m.
This is at 2:30.
Yeah, we had to go back at 2:30
in the morning
a.m. to get everything.
Yeah, so there's us picking up the cameras.
You see he has the bags on everything.
And I was just about to walk through the place that Jason didn't want to walk through. There, I'm walking up the place where Jason didn't want to walk through.
Yeah, I hated that trench.
There's John next to me. He set up next to me.
Look at Erik. So Erik had to wash his hands, obviously, because he's getting that.
Yeah, that crud all over me.
And everything's in plastic.
Plastic. And then we just basically stripped all that plastic off and then recycled it.
Yeah, and then washed up.
Yep. So, Marcarena's asking to use any filters. No. None of those shots that you saw had a filter on it, including the streak shots. The only time that I would use a filter would be an ND filter, and it's only on streak shots where two reasons. I'm either really close to it, like I'm on the pad. At that point, the light is so intense, I actually have to put like a 10-stop ND on front of it just to get a good exposure.
Yep.
Or if I'm shooting a streak shot during the day where I'm wanting to do like a daytime streak and you can't do a full streak during the day, you could do like a section of the rocket, but a lot of times you'll have to knock that down about 6-10 stops because of the ambient light. And then favorite weather app. This is a hard one because I use multiple weather apps because each one has a different cool thing. I'd say on predictions, I love this app called Dark Skies, I believe it's called. And I love that for predictions, but I don't like it for actuals. Yeah, it's called Dark Sky. For actuals, I tend to a lot of times be using Radar Scope. That's a great app for monitoring that stuff. Or like we go into the class, all the launches are supported at Cape Canaveral by the 45th Space Wing Weather Squadron. So they help us to know the weather and know what's going on. So A lot of times we're just keying in on them. They're giving us the data. It's all public data, so it's not like it's hidden from anybody. But as long as you keep up track, they're very good because they're the ones setting up the weather balloons. They're the ones studying the weather before launch. Stuff like that.
And the one thing I was going to, for the wrap, is the last step that I saw. A lot of these guys are working for like press, basically.
Press,
so as soon as they get their cameras in that bus, they're all tethered to their phones and they're sending out their pics as fast as possible. And it's almost a race. You can see guys racing each other to see who could get the first picture on Instagram. Like, it was actually kind of funny. I was laughing myself because it's a whole different.
I usually get my editor about halfway back saying, "Hey, where's the pictures?"
Yeah, I was like, it's a whole different world, and it's really cool to be where everyone's interested in the same thing, you know. And that was fun to see everyone like getting those shots out to their editors and stuff.
Yep, very cool stuff. Well, cool. Well, we got some giveaways here. So the Platy Pod is going to be going to Craig Byers. So you won the Platy Pod. And then Judy, you won the landscape book. So just contact Christina in the chat. Well, Jason, we ran out of time. I had some more questions to ask you and stuff to go over with gear. So maybe we'll just have to do that another time.
Yeah, this was fun. It's great to be on the grid. I'm usually behind camera, but
right. So cool.
I like to direct from this side.
Yeah. I'm sure Mike's back there like Mike's back there
like, ugh.
Yeah. Because I know Jason loves it when we direct him from out here.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, we'll see you guys next week on the grid. We have Scott back. Do we have anything else next week? We got some cool stuff planned for next week. You'll have to tune in. And if you're over at WPPI, check out Scott's book signing tomorrow at noon. So, all right, guys. Well, we will see you next time on the grid.
Yeah.
See ya.